click go live. Okay, so I have to. So I have to do that. And then I have to, I have to do something now. You silly little goose. You silly little geese. So I actually have to cancel a stream because I actually made another stream. Because I'm stupid. Because I'm dumb. Because I'm an idiot. Because I'm an idiot. So manage videos. All right, and now I have to leak my channel, and I have to leak everything. Okay, leaking everything right now. And now we delete forever. Yes, I understand. I don't know what that means. What do you mean? What do you mean by this? What do you mean by this? How did I manage this? Wait. Wait. What were what were my manual shortcuts to make him speak? I can wag, I can figure this out. I can figure this out. What? No, I don't wish to remove my media source. How did I was it not? Oh, it was my little it was this. Ah. See? Okay, yeah. There we go. But yeah, I actually created a stream. We'll wait for a few people to join. I guess. I guess I could just like wait for a few of you guys to join. But if no one does, that's also fine. I don't give a fuck. I'm here to read Bruno Latour and have fun. But this will be the oh. Do I need to fix? Oh, I wait. I like that. Wait, I kind of like that. Wait, that's fine actually. Oh. No, I wanna. How do I make it a different size? I want to make this one a different size. I'm crying. I'm literally crying now. Oh, I should probably unlock it first. I should probably unlock the image first. That would probably be the first step to being able to do it. All right. All right, yeah, okay. That's actually fine now. That's actually fine. Ants can be in the background. I like ants in the background. Whoa, what's this stream? There's a little stream down here. Wait, do I have it so it doesn't capture my mouse cursor? Why do I have that? Capture cursor. Okay, it still isn't doing it. Can you actually capture my cursor? Okay. Okay, I guess I just don't get to have my mouse cursor captured, so. Alright, but yeah, we're going over, so P.F. Jung did a video about science and religion, and as some of you might know, there's a certain man who I like reading who also talks about science and religion. And so, yeah. Without further ado, let's get started. Is the noise fine? Give me audio check. Audio check. Audio check. Do I need to make things louder? People aren't answering me. We'll go back and we'll do it again. Yeah, so is this good? Does this sound good? Do I need to turn it up? I can turn it up. Oh. Oh.
To the film almost.
You guys can hear it now, right? Yeah. So scuffed.
A year ago, Alex O'Connor
Okay, is that fine? Does that need to be turned up? Because that shouldn't be muted anymore. And I hope it isn't. We'll turn it up a little bit then.
Almost a year ago, Alex O'Connor.
That good? That good?
Connor moderated a
We'll let it play for a
legendary
little bit. We'll let it
conversation
play for a little
between
bit.
Richard Dawkins and Jordan Peterson.
There we go. There we go. That should have given you all enough time to determine whether or not the audio is good, whether it's too loud or whether it's just right. For anyone just arriving, you're fucking perfect because now I'm just testing things. Okay, well I just one for it's okay, two for it's not okay. Just give me ones or twos. One, good. Two, sick and twisted, dark academia. Two, it's actually The Secret History by whatever the author's name is. It is an answer. Yeah, I didn't hear one or two. I don't see one or two. Is it good or is it not good? Don't make me pull up the stream. Don't make me pull up my own stream. Do it. I'll freaking do it. Is it yeah, okay, it's still covering that. Yeah. Okay, we're pulling up my own stream. Cause you guys want to give me fucking answers. And we're gonna go back to muting the tab. Okay. Okay, there we go. Finally. Frickin' finally. There we go. Alright. Well, let's start now. And then we have to turn on... Okay, there we go.
Almost a year ago, Alex O'Connor moderated a now legendary conversation between Richard Dawkins and Jordan Peterson. And to the filthy casual, the most memorable moments were the bizarre discussions of the biological reality of dragons.
In literature.
I don't think the category of dragon is any less valid than the category of lion.
Any less biological?
Well, it depends on your level of analysis.
However, I still cannot believe that so many people missed the profound point of agreement that occurred near
A lot of this. Okay, so spoilers. I've watched basically all of this. It's the beginning's kind of bland. I'm gonna be very honest. I don't know why he has the bit about dragons in there. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Jordan Peterson probably was saying something dumb, but it also probably was a little bit correct. Maybe. I don't care. I don't care. All these people are, I don't like any of those people, so they're all wrong. We're just going to say everyone was wrong in that debate. I was right. I was the right one in that debate. That's what we'll say.
the end of the discussion, one that has deep implications for both individuals and society.
Could you imagine a scenario where a meme had sufficient functional adaptive significance so that the individuals who acted it out gained a reproductive edge?
Yes.
Okay, so then you could imagine a situation where there was, I think I've got this right, a Baldwin effect
Yes.
between the meme and the genome.
Yes.
Okay, so then could you imagine an effect where the heroic hunters of the past who decided to cease acting like prey animals, maybe when they got rocks or sticks, were acting under the impulse that facing down the predator was the appropriate strategy? I would say that that's essentially the same pattern of archetype evolution that's implicit in the Jungian theoretical
Well, that's
model.
very interesting because that suggests that Jungian archetypes might be.
Yeah. So there's actually a few things about this already. There's a few things about this already. One, Jordan Peterson hasn't brought up religion here. There's nothing about religion right now. He's talking about his thing, which is Jung. There's no reason to assume this. And also, by the way, I hope you... The answer is, the thing is, did the gap between science and religion just get bridged? The answer is, not in this debate. Like, it hasn't. Whatever Dawkins is gonna give, like, an answer that's like, we'll just let him continue. I know what he's gonna say here. We'll just let him continue, and then I'll say what I'm gonna say.
Genetically assimilated via the Baldwin effect.
Yes,
Oh, wait.
implicit in the Jungian theoretical
Well, that's
model.
very interesting because that suggests that Jungian archetypes might be genetically assimilated via the Baldwin effect.
Yes,
Now, that's
yes.
a fascinating idea.
Yes.
Okay.
For Richard Dawkins to express
All Richard Dawkins said was, what you're saying, the hypothetical you presented, would suggest something, which is totally valid. It's completely normal. If there's a million ways, there's a million questions you can use to do the same exact thing. Nothing was bridged here. Peterson made a hypothetical, and Richard Dawkins will say, not to say what he probably actually is doing, giving Jordan Peterson the benefit of the doubt, is saying, well, if what you're saying is true, then this would suggest this. This would suggest something, whatever the fuck. And he's like, oh, and that would be very interesting. And, like, none of this has been demonstrated, proved in any way. Nothing's happened here. There's no bridge has been gapped. At best, Dawkins is simply giving Jordan Peterson some charitability. He's being charitable. That's like it.
this level of openness and interest in one of Jordan Peterson's foundational philosophical ideas is, at minimum, a sign that we should examine this hypothesis further, given the potential bridge that it represents between science and religion. The Baldwin...
Why? So my first question is... so my first thing is, I don't actually have a problem with this. You can study questions that I would consider quite stupid. I don't actually have a problem with this. I kind of take the position that Angela Collier takes, which is, even if I don't think it's true, that doesn't mean we shouldn't necessarily study it. There probably should be limits on certain things, but I don't necessarily think we should limit science in any. So, okay, I'm pretty sure the Baldwin archetype hypothesis is what he's making up. I'll just look up Baldwin hypothesis. Or sorry, the Baldwin effect. What the Baldwin effect is it's this. The Baldwin effect describes the way agencies, imitations, and learned behaviors can pioneer evolutionary change. It was first christened as such in 1950s by George Gaylord Simpson, one of the architects of modern synthesis, to bring attention to a process highlighted in the previous century by James Mark Baldwin. And let's see, what are examples? I forget. There were good examples. Baldwin effect examples. I just want examples. Okay. Evolutionary, no environmental exposure may be needed. The trait has become genetically encoded. The frequently cited example of the Baldwin effect is the ability to develop hard skin on certain areas of the body with relatively little environmental exposure. I think he actually talks about it in this, but the Baldwin archetype hypothesis is just literally what he's calling what Jordan Peterson said. I'm pretty sure that's it. That's not a thing.
Archetype hypothesis is a synthesis of two core concepts, the Baldwin effect and Jungian archetypes. Jungian archetypes
so that's right.
are universal patterns of behavior that are grounded in our biology and acted out, as well as represented mythologically and symbolically in dreams, myths, and cultural artifacts like religion. For example, every human being that has ever existed was born from their mother, and so part of the human psyche contains the mother archetype. By the same token, the human psyche also contains universal and fundamental archetypes like predator, friend, or lover.
You're going to be manifesting.
There's a so my question is, again, he hasn't explained how this bridges the religion science debate, or not even the debate, the gap between religion and science. There's no, I don't think a lot of people have all that hard of a time believing that religion played some role that moved us forward in some way, and it's just basically now obsolete or something like that, or that religion has this like evolutionary function. It's something like that. I don't think that that's something that a lot of atheists or people who are even anti-religious would disagree with. Mothers exist in our head. Yeah. I don't know. There's just this isn't the basic gist of this so far, and I forget if he actually does kind of bridge it at all, is he hasn't explained what the title of the video is, and what he said it is the how this bridges the gap between science and religion. He's just said this is a potential bridge between science and religion, and I can't even see that. Yes. Yeah, he's not just saying that it's a because especially with that being the case, what does that mean to be universal? Does it mean we all have a mother archetype, or is it a singular mother archetype? Or can mother archetypes actually be like it being universal? Does it just mean we all have a mother archetype? Can people have multiple mother archetypes? What does that mean then? Then is it universal? There's a lot of stuff here that just it's silly. It's silly on its face.
Archetypal patterns of behavior in your life, whether you know it or not. Even when you do something like fall in love, because that's going to be a very particular experience for you, but it's also a very common experience at the same time. And romance is older than people. That's one way of looking at it. I mean, because sex is older than human beings, and so you're in the grip of something that's really ancient, but at the same time.
I really love how he just conflated sex and romance, because that actually implies that that to him there has never been any difference between what a lot of people do now and what like just wild animals do. That there's no difference between those things. That's because if it's just sex, that's also romance. Because I don't know, because otherwise I don't know what he means by sex. I assume he just means fucking. Because that like is the only thing that he said. He didn't say something like making love, like something more like a metaphorical and ambiguous. He said sex, which sex, just like taking it straightforwardly, it's just like scissoring, dick and butt, dick and vagina, dick and mouth, mouth on pussy, with like just whatever, like just sex. Sex is just, I don't know. Sex is a lot of things. So I don't know.
It's really personal.
Now, the Baldwin effect is an evolutionary theory that proposes that learned behaviors over many generations can eventually become innate through natural
Can make you
selection.
bald.
Richard Dawkins
They
explains
can make
the
you
Baldwin
bald.
effect using the example of British blue tits. The bird species, not Bonnie Blue.
It was suggested by Baldwin, I think in the late 19th century. It's a kind of genetic assimilation of a cultural or a learned idea. So the idea is that certain animals learn things, learn a clever trick. It might.
Oh, a great example of this actually that I actually learned about. Apparently orangutans, will use leaves, like they'll use like big leaves as basically umbrellas. I think if I remember correctly, and also I think they'll end up also chewing up specific plants and basically using them as medicine in some sort of ways. If I remember correctly, apes are animals are very fascinating. That they do a lot of interesting things. And I think that would also be an example of the Baldwin effect, if I'm not mistaken. If I understand this, what he's saying, that would be an example of it in animals, in other animals.
Be nut cracking by chimpanzees, for example, or potato washing by Japanese macaques, or opening milk bottles by English tits. And it perhaps spread as mimetically as an epidemic of copying, and that's known to have happened with the blue tits and great tits in Britain. Now, certain individuals are likely to learn it faster than others, and there may be genetic variation in the speed with which they learn it. And
not exactly. What this is saying is that so over time. Okay, so actually, I actually kind of think, sorry, I actually forgot something, that it is actually specifically about it being genetic and not it being heritable, which I think genetic and heritable are two very different. I'm pretty sure genetic doesn't mean the same thing as heritable. It does mean directly having to do with genes, where heritability is just, it is passed on from parent to offspring. It doesn't necessarily have to be genetic. It can be, but yes. So I think what he's saying is there are certain things that could be at first heritable, that have some advantage, and eventually over time they kind of just become ingrained. I don't know if he would consider cars that. A lot of this kind of sounds weird, and I'm not sure how it plays out, and I'm not even sure if Richard Dawkins is explaining it right. I assume he is, but there's a chance there's some variability in what he's saying, and probably what he's saying might be disputed. Yeah, that is one of the biggest issues. How do you determine when something changes from just being heritable to being genetic? What does that mean? That's what I was saying. Because the example I gave earlier is actually an example of like a heritable thing that happens. Because I think I don't think all orangutans actually do it, but
As the generation.
While you were taking linguistics, that's based. But yeah, Kirisu. I actually just realized that. I realized the Baldwin effect doesn't actually have to do with heritability. It does have to do directly with genetics, and those are two different things. The Baldwin effect talking about heritability would actually be more interesting to me. The idea that things like that do pass on, and eventually they might become genetic, but even then it's like it's more just it ends up basically being like a fundamental thing to that species, because they end up learning it quicker and quicker and teaching it more and more to their children. I think that makes more sense to me. That is more compelling of a thing than it being genetic by itself.
Generations go by, natural selection would have favored speed of learning the new trick. And eventually they would have learned the new trick so fast, they didn't need to learn it at all.
Right.
It becomes genetically assimilated into the genome. That's the Baldwin effect.
Okay, that I would say that's essentially the same pattern of archetype evolution that's implicit in the Jungian theoretical
Well, that's
model.
very interesting, because that suggests that Jungian archetypes might be genetically assimilated via the Baldwin effect.
Yes.
The most important implication of the Baldwin archetype hypothesis, and where I
Yep. Again, Baldwin archetype hypothesis is just what he's calling what was just said there. Which all Richard Dawkins said to was, that's very interesting, because if what you're saying is true, which he's just saying, if A, then B. If A equals true, then B. But we haven't even determined A is true. We haven't even determined the thing that Jordan Peterson is talking about is true. We haven't even determined that. There's been like no effort to determine it either. We don't know anything. There's just, I don't know, there's just no grounding.
I think it bridges the gap between science and religion is the degree to which it validates the claim that religions are not mind viruses, as many atheists would proclaim, but are instead compendiums of evolutionary wisdom. You can think of this approach to religion as the scientific reaffirmation of the principle behind Chesterton's fence. Instead of dismissing these seemingly irrational religious beliefs as Stone Age superstitions, they should be treated as adaptive until proven otherwise. For example, Richard Dawkins would point.
Why would you treat them as adaptive until proven otherwise? We could just as easily say that these, okay, it's very easy for me to say these were superstitions were at one point adaptive to us in some way. I don't think this about religion. I just want to clarify. But you could just as easily say, if you were an atheist who didn't like religion all that much, religion was adaptive for a time. When we were Stone Age, when we were in tribes, when we were like whatever, it'd be some new atheist bullshit probably that I wouldn't even agree with like at all, or could even like buy into. but these were actually beneficial. But now that we're modern, now that we're in the current age, religion is just, weird superstition. It's just lingering. It's vestigial almost. It's a vestigial. It doesn't really serve much of a function outside of maybe some social advantage at best, but that could also be replaced by other forms of communication that are more secular. You could just easily say that, and I don't know why I would assume one over the other. I don't know why I would assume it's advantageous over it being disadvantageous, or vice versa. I don't know why you would favor one over the other. I don't know why you would assume either one.
Point to the celibacy of Catholic priests as a clear example where a mind virus, Catholicism, undermines the genetic fitness of its practitioners. But if we look at things through a more adaptationist lens, we would see how a celibate clergy functions more like a non-reproductive caste within a population, like honeybees that don't reproduce themselves but benefit the hive.
Number 7. I really want to know your reaction to this one. I've been waiting.
We really have to define benefit here. There is a lot of things going on here that are... Yeah. Exactly. One, what does benefit mean? Two, two, why was this put in place into the first place? Because I don't know anything about Catholicism in that way. I'm not a Catholic. I don't know the history of Catholicism, like how it's developed over time or anything like that. There is totally a whole bunch of stuff that's being skipped over here that would have to be looked into. The thing that he's looking into, also who is the receiver to the benefit? But the thing he's looking into would have to be dealt with not just by like an evolutionary biologist, by a historian, by some sort of social scientist, humanities major, something like that. This is like what he's talking about is a multidisciplinary thing, which T.F. Jung almost certainly wouldn't agree with, probably agree with all that much. But there's no reason to assume any of this from the outset. And I trust Karasu, so I'm going to say that it's like probably what he's saying is probably bunk from the outset if you know anything about this.
All night. Catholics are eusocial. Does everybody in the audience understand what the claim is? That you have a non-reproductive caste within Catholicism, other religions too, but Catholics are kind to us in that they make everything so elaborate that we can...
Worker bees don't reproduce.
Right.
Priests theoretically don't.
Yeah, priests theoretically don't, and neither do nuns. Well, I think most of them probably don't. Don't you agree?
Yes. Yeah.
So, all right, the question is, you allege in The Selfish Gene that a celibate clergy is a failure of Darwinian selection. My claim here is that this isn't a failure, that this is adaptive celibacy, that it serves a lineage-level purpose. This is my claim, is that it is almost always going to be the case in any persistent religion that where you have people engaged in what appears to be some spectacular failure of Darwinism, that they just so happen to be spreading ideas that will result in the genes that are allowing them to fail as Darwinian entities to succeed by the lineage that holds those beliefs.
They devote all their energies to spreading Catholic memes, and they don't have to bother with the time and responsibilities of a family, so they're wholly devoted to spreading Catholic memes, including, incidentally, more than incidentally, the meme for celibacy.
Well, they spread the meme for celibacy, which my claim, if I'm right about this, then my point would be that Catholic lineages would actually do less well if every...
I didn't actually know that. But yeah, this would go against what this guy is saying to begin with. This would also, by the way, go against what the fuck Richard Dawkins is saying. Also, by the way, I hope everyone understands that the reason why this guy is wrong is also the same reason why Richard Dawkins would be wrong. They would be wrong for exactly the same, for like almost exactly the same reasons, with a few minor tweaks. They'd be wrong with the same information.
Everybody reproduced, that there is an advantage to having individuals who have stepped out of the reproductive market and therefore become capable of speaking on behalf of the lineage.
One way to conceptualize religion.
Well, Jim, we need to get Bard in here. Bard's our expert. Bard knows a lot. Bard probably knows a lot about this, about Catholic reproduction, Catholic priest reproduction. You know.
Is by borrowing a concept that Richard Dawkins himself coined called the extended phenotype. Genes express themselves in the bodies of living organisms as what we call phenotypes. But an extended phenotype is the expression of a gene beyond the body of the organism that contains that gene.
The evolution of an animal artifact like a nest has got to have come about through the natural selection of genes. Therefore, there must be genes for a phenotype, which is not a part of the animal, which is made of grass or stone or mud or wood.
Religious traditions, as well as the cultural artifacts that result from those traditions, are not parasitic ideas directing humans towards self-destructive ends. On the contrary,
let's look. I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about things. I don't know things. Phenotype. The set of observable characteristics of an individual resulting from the interaction of its genotype with the environment. Okay, well, what is? I can guess what genotype means. We'll look up what genotype means. I don't know anything. We're just gonna go with Google with what Google tells me. Okay, this isn't very helpful. Yeah, it feels like phenotypes would already be extended, would they not? I don't understand what this means. In genetics, the phenotype is a set of observable characteristics or traits of an organism. The term covers all traits of an organism rather than its genome, however transitory. The organism's morphology, form and structure, its developmental processes, its biochemical and physiological properties, whether reversible or irreversible, and all of its behavior from the peacock display to the phone number you half remember. An organism phenotype results from the two basic factors: the expression of an organism's genetic code, genotype, the same organism's interaction with its environment. Each of these factors may influence the other in ways that impact the phenotypes of organisms in questions. Yeah, I don't know how... okay. Yeah, so I don't know what an extended phenotype is. Extended phenotype. I don't want Richard Dawkins. No, he said Charles Darwin made this up. Extended phenotype. Charles Darwin. Daddy Darwin. Okay. Oh, okay. I understand. The phenotype. Yeah, okay. Okay. So it would be something that may have variation in it, but it stays relatively consistent with slight moderations over time. Like, for instance, beavers might build dams a little bit differently. Beehives might be constructed slightly weirdly. Bird nests as well, but the bird nest as a thing, the bird nest being consistent, the beehive being consistent, is what the extended phenotype would refer to. The dam being consistent. I assume that's what you're saying. I think that's what you're saying. Okay.
The sacred spaces that every human society creates as part of their religion are the results of our genes expressing themselves in the same way that beaver genes cause them to create beaver dams that last hundreds of years, or termite genes cause them to create vast underground cities that last for thousands of years.
Beaver ponds are created by beavers to facilitate their own ecology, and they are passed down to next generation beavers, right? This piece of ecology is handed down, sometimes over the course of decades or even 100 years. These ponds, these alterations of the landscape, are handed down as an inheritance to future generations of beavers. And that, to me, looks very much like a lineage handing down a belief system that results in it being ecologically effective.
And while these traditions and artifacts are
that is what the Baldwin effect is allegedly claiming, but as Karasu said, I don't know how we determine that it's genetic and not that it's hereditary. I don't know anything about the Baldwin effect or what it means. Or how, I don't even know who. Is the Baldwin effect taken seriously? Baldwin effect. Baldwin effect. Controversy and acceptance. We'll look at it. Initially, Baldwin's ideas were not incompatible with prevailing but uncertain ideas about the mechanism of transmission of hereditary information, and at least two other biologists put forward very similar ideas in 1896. In 1901, Morris, blah, 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 blah. The Baldwin effect theory subsequently became more controversial when scholars divided between Baldwin boosters and Baldwin skeptics. The theory was first called the Baldwin effect, submitted that the idea was theoretically consistent, that is not inconsistent with the modern synthesis, but he doubted that the phenomenon occurred very often, or if so, could be proven to occur. In his discussion of the reception of the Baldwin effect theory, Simpson points out that the theory appears to provide us a reconciliation between neo-Darwinism and neo-Lamarckian approach, and that Mendelism and later genetic theory so conclusively ruled out the extreme neo-Lamarckian position that reconciliation came to seem unnecessary. In 1942, the revolutionary biologist Julian Huxley promoted the Baldwin effect as part of the modern synthesis, saying the concept had been unduly neglected by evolutionists. Okay, so it seems that the person who coined it ended up not even... It wasn't really a strong thing. It wasn't even really a strong thing for him, and it ended up becoming unnecessary. I just want to... Sorry, just highlighting some things. Just highlighting some things. Just highlighting. There's some information on the screen that looks very interesting for the person who apparently wanted to continue this. You know, he has some very interesting beliefs. Okay, let's continue. In the 1960s, the evolutionary biologist Ernst Mayr contended the Baldwin effect theory was untenable because the argument is stated in terms of the individual genotype, whereas what is really exposed to the selection pressure is a phenotypical and genetically variable population. It is not sufficiently emphasized that the degree of modification of the phenotype is in itself genetically controlled. It is assumed that phenotypic rigidity is selectively superior to phenotypic flexibility. In 1987, Jeffrey Hinton and Stephen Nolan demonstrated by computer simulation that learning can accelerate evolution, and they associated this with the Baldwin effect. Paul Griffiths suggested two reasons for the continuing interest in the Baldwin effect. The first is the role mind is understood to play in the effect. The second is the connection between development and evolution in the effect. Baldwin's account of neurophysiological and conscious mental factors may contribute to the effect, brings into focus their question of the possible survival value of consciousness. Yeah, yeah. No, I exactly see what you mean. Point three seemed to be the most important. To me, at least. Still, David Defoe observed in 2003, it is striking that a rather diverse lot of contemporary evolutionary theorists, most of whom regard themselves as supporters of the modern systemists, have of late become Baldwin boosters. These are typically evolutionary psychologists who are searching for scenarios in which a population can get itself by behavioral trial and error into a hard-to-find part of the fitness landscape in which human brain, language, and mind can rapidly co-evolve. They're searching for what Daniel Dennett himself, a Baldwin booster, calls an evolutionary crane, an instrument to do some heavy lifting. According to Dennett, also in 2003, recent work has rendered the Baldwin effect no longer a controversial wrinkle in orthodox Darwinism. Potential genetic mechanism underlying the Baldwin effect has been proposed for the evolution of natural, genetically determined antibodies. In 2009, empirical evidence for the Baldwin effect was proved from the colonization of North America by the house finch. The Baldwin effect has been incorporated into the extended evolutionary synthesis. And so what does this mean? What does this actually mean? Well, this can mean a lot of things. Yes. If people accept there's a thing here. This has been accepted. Something very important is how it has been accepted. It being accepted as a thing does not make anything of what P.F. Jung's saying. Yeah. This doesn't make what P.F. Jung is saying any more plausible. I don't know anything about the Baldwin effect. Yeah. It is one of the things. I'm not saying it couldn't be possible. I'm no expert, or that some variation on it is possible. But what I'm hearing now is, oh, antibodies. Oh, house finch colonizing North America, and I don't know what this means. Okay, we can actually look at this. Okay, so I assume I don't know, but yeah, we'll continue.
Very complex. It's important to remember that they are ultimately elaborations that result from a basic evolutionary process in which a particular way of being, one that optimizes genetic fitness, is identified and represented.
We also know that your position in a dominance hierarchy, especially if you're male, is proportionate to your reproductive success. The higher you up in the hierarchy, the more
We're actually going to go back a little bit.
That results in it being ecologically effective.
And while these traditions and artifacts are very complex, it's important to remember that they are ultimately elaborations that result from a basic evolutionary process in which a particular way of being, one that optimizes genetic fitness, is identified and represented.
We also know that your position in a dominance hierarchy, especially if you're male, is proportionate to your reproductive success. The higher you up in the hierarchy, the more likely you are to succeed. Okay, so what that means is that males have been selected for their ability to move up a dominance hierarchy, but that's not quite right. They've been selected for their ability to move up the set of all possible dominance hierarchies, and that's a very abstract set. And there's a set of characteristics that go along with the ability to move up the set of all possible dominance hierarchies that's represented in religious terms as the optimal ethical manner in which to conduct yourself.
Of course, underlying...
Oh my fucking god, Karasu, I completely forgot about the term just so tales. Just so tales is such a good terms. Also I'm going to go back for a bit. Also, again, nothing of what he's saying proves it. Also, how is this? He's saying this is a gap between science and religion. Okay. Virus has negative connotations. Virus has negative connotations, but I have no reason to think that a virus couldn't cause something positive. Why it couldn't contribute to a positive development in somebody. and maybe that's like completely wrong, but I don't know. I don't know why that isn't. That might be completely impossible, but I also don't know why it couldn't be very possible, as well. And so calling religion a mind virus, which, by the way, from what they're saying, it quite literally is. It is, we could say, an evolutionary mind virus or whatever. Like, what they're saying makes religion kind of like that. Like in what they actually mean. Because like when people are talking about a mind virus, they aren't literally talking about, oh, religion is this. What they're saying is, it's when people are talking about that, they're basically talking about a collective hallucination. Yeah. They're basically talking about a collective hallucination, and both of them end up leading down the same weird route where they kind of like the mind virus approach and what P.F. Jung is saying aren't incompatible. They just aren't incompatible at all. It's a big problem.
Terms as the optimal ethical manner in which to conduct yourself.
Of course, underlying all of this is the monumental challenge of trying to figure out which religious traditions are more adaptive than others. Just because religion evolved doesn't mean all of its practices are good for individuals or society. For example, the extreme policing of sexual promiscuity is a common religious practice that may have given a population an advantage in an era where there was no birth control, no condoms, and no treatments for STDs that, like AIDS, could have wiped out an entire population if not contained. But given that we now have the technology to decouple the behavior from the risk, at least to some degree, that level of strict sexual repression is probably a greater cost than a benefit at this point. But ultimately, separating the wheat from the chaff when it comes to these religious traditions still requires the application of a sharp rationalist mind, albeit one that does not start with the presumption that the phenomenon being examined is a mind virus. So until next time, good luck and Godspeed.
Yes, we actually can. Snow crash. Snow crash. And then we need to check selfish gene. Okay, I think this was written after selfish. I think this was written before selfish gene, I mean. Oh no, wait, the selfish gene. Oh, the selfish gene. Oh, I forget how old the selfish gene is. Jim, the video was all nonsense? Oh yes, they didn't even prove its own point. It didn't even prove its own point. If you're talking about the video was just all nonsense. Yes, it was. I just looked it up. Snow Crash is 92. And Selfish Gene is, like you said, 96. I mean 76. Yeah, there's a lot of ways this is all nonsense. But on to something quite interesting. A more interesting discussion of religion. So, we're actually going to pull up something else. I'm gonna open Zotero, and we're gonna look at something. I'm just gonna go through something. But right now, while I'm getting Zotero opened, I'm actually just kind of gonna talk about it because it's kind of really simple. The way he's talking about religion, isn't actually any different from the atheists, the skeptics. It really isn't. The same thing with what's it called? The same thing with what's it called? The same thing with Jordan Peterson too, by the way. They make religion uninteresting. Latour, though, has a very different idea of religion. This is the third chapter of Factish on the Modern Code of the Factish Gods, and it has something very interesting to say about religion. One, the first point he wants to make is that he does not wish to speak of religion in general. He's not going to talk about every single religion. He is specifically going to talk about religion in the tradition that is his, which is the Christian tradition, and maybe even more specifically, the Catholic tradition. Latour is a Catholic. He was raised Catholic, as far as I know, his whole life. He was a Catholic. Catholicism and religion and Christianity come up sometimes quite a bit in his works, in very interesting ways. In this book, in this chapter of this book, he wishes to talk about religious speech and scientific speech. In it, what does he say about religious and scientific speech? I'll find it and I'll read it. I'll read the ending and then I'll basically sum up the points on how he got there. Where is it? What a comet! We're reading this section, by the way, everyone. What a comedy of errors. When the debate between science and religion is staged, adjectives are almost exactly reversed. It is science that reaches the invisible world of beyond, that she is spiritual, miraculous, soul-fulfilling, and uplifting. It is religion which should be qualified as being local, objective, visible, mundane, unmiraculous, repetitive, obstinate, sturdy. A lot of people probably aren't going to like the way he's talking about this, but there's kind of a very good reason. What does science get to? What is science concerned with? Science is concerned with the distant. It is concerned with things that are too big, too small, too complex, too far away, too close, for us to even begin to notice. It literally, and in this way, it wishes to reach a different world. This is what science wishes to do. But what does religion wish to do? For Latour, at least in the Christian tradition, religion wishes to make you present, to make you feel again, to represent again, to present again. While religion isn't that. Religion is concerned with what is religion is the opposite of science in this way. It's concerned with the close, with the visible, with things that can be seen, and stuff like that. The Bible, in a lot of ways, I was talking to my friend June about this. It's a very different approach, and June's talked about this. How Latour says in here that if you are attracted to the distant, to the far away, to the above, you aren't sensitive to religious talk. You aren't listening to me because you aren't even with me. You're far away. You're quite literally somewhere else. You aren't here. You're focused on something that isn't that. And June, my one friend, pointed this out as well, that religion as well, especially in the Christian tradition, isn't necessarily concerned with heaven. Until I think very recently, I think it isn't inaccurate to say that religion was concerned with Christianity was concerned with things that are quite physical, immediate, local, as he says. It's not concerned with things that are all that distant. It can be, I think, but I think and I think this chapter provides a much more interesting view, an interesting take, at least, on religion than anything. Another one is actually that kind of goes along with this, is Before Religion, The History of a Modern Concept. I haven't read all of it. I should have. It's so short and it's so good. I've read like half of it now. And I read half of it like a while ago. It also kind of takes a similar approach as this, but in a very different way. And it kind of ends up talking about religion in a very different way. And it's good. And it's good and it's great. And it makes religion alive, I guess. When Latour is talking about religion, later on, he talks about paintings. He talks about how this is proven through religious paintings. It's really interesting, and it's really beautiful. So does what's his name? What's his first name? Something Nobry, I think is his last name. Before Religion, Brent Nobry. I was gonna say his first name right. I just wasn't sure. I thought I was getting it wrong. That was confusing with someone else. But yeah, this is I guess that's kind of it. For me. People like P.F. Jung aren't concerned with not making religion simply a mind virus, simply something to be hated, or anything more complex than a lot of the new atheist crowd is. He also wants to make it a mind virus. He just wants that mind virus to be a positive thing. It's not an affliction. It's what's the opposite of an affliction? Opposite of affliction. There's a word. There's a word I'm thinking of. There's a word I'm thinking of specifically. It's not any of these. I think it occurs in. I'm just gonna look up Cult of the Lamb because I think it occurs. Yeah, a blessing, a boon. That's what I was looking for. It's instead of blessing, it's a boon. It's these things. It's not an affliction anymore. And they aren't any different. They aren't any different from the scientists. They just want to reverse. They just want to do the reverse. That's it. That's it. It's I think that's really all I have to say on this. I think that's basically it. That's basically it. I hope you guys like this. If you did, you can donate. I will actually be streaming again. I was planning on streaming Politics of yeah, they aren't. They really aren't. They're just concerned with just so stories. They don't have anything to back them up. They aren't even interested. Peterson, I'll say Peterson has the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. I'm surprised I got an hour out of this. To be fair, most of it was me looking up stuff, I think. A lot of it was me looking up stuff and explaining and talking to you guys about how it's kind of all bullshit. Not like how it's all bullshit. but how what he's saying doesn't necessarily follow from the things he's doing. And yeah, but I will stream later. I'll try to do more of this. It's really hard for me to find videos that I can really respond to like this, that I feel like I'm gonna learn something from it, not only, but you guys also will. And if you guys have any videos like this, I would appreciate them. Send them my way. I'll check them out like this one. I will gladly check them out, and I will go over them, and I will like them, and I will. And I enjoy this, and I do enjoy this. I don't like live reacting to videos because most of them, they're boring. P.F. Jung, there was a boring way to do this. I think this was interesting. I think this was kind of a little bit more interesting. I don't think it's like the thing I really want to be doing. Like, I wouldn't want to only cover P.F. Jung because that would be boring. I want to cover more interesting things. There's more interesting things that are bad than P.F. Jung, I hope. And yeah, but I'm going to be streaming Politics of Nature later. I'm doing a little bit of a reading, but first I need to eat. I'm getting a headache because I haven't eaten much today. So yes, that's the thing. He was interestingly wrong. He was wrong in a way that made us have to do like some form of research, something good. He talked about things. He actually talked about things. He might have been wrong the entire time, but that's fine. But that's okay. It's all okay. He can be wrong. I'm gonna say this, guys. P.F. Jung can be wrong. I support him being wrong, but he was wrong in a somewhat interesting way, and so it's good. It's good. But yeah, I'll be streaming later. If you guys like, donate, join my Patreon. You get early access to scripts and stuff. So if you join my Patreon, so if you like that, do that. You can also just donate a few bucks if you want to. That's also good. But yeah, thank you all. Have a great one. I gotta stop now, otherwise I'll just keep talking to you guys because I love talking about this stuff. Good luck. I will be doing a video on lab life soon. I'll be doing some reading for it actually. Not of lab life actually, but of secondary like references to in lab life. I'm actually going to be doing that too because I actually have a specific thing I want to do. I was looking at it while I was doing jury duty today, and I had a very interesting way to do it that I think adds something to it that I feel is good, that I like a lot. So, going to be doing that. Going to be trying to focus on that as well, along with my other essays. But yeah. But tell me what you think of Lab Life Ninja. If you have any questions, you can always ask anyone. You can always join my Discord server. I gotta start making sure that it's posted in the links. My Discord is always posted. Oh wait, my Discord's already always posted. I just realized. But either way, hope you all have a good day. If you guys have any questions, anything you want to know, especially about Bruno Latour, I'm your person. I was gonna say I'm your expert, but I'm not really. I'm just someone who I've read a lot of Bruno Latour. That's kind of it. I'm not really an expert. I know a little bit. I can direct people a little bit. I can give them a little bit of direction. So, yeah. Have a good evening, and unless my headache gets worse, we will be streaming later. More ants will be happening. So, yeah. See you all.